Well, as you just heard, the numbers on the upcoming midterm election are interesting. The Democrats are still ahead, but they're not nearly as popular as they were 6 months ago. And that is weird. The president is still disliked by half the country. Congressional Republicans in the polling are even less admired than he is. So Democrats ought to be way ahead. And as you just heard, they're not. So why is that? Could it be that for all the problems with the Republican Party, and those problems are real, Democrats are perceived as even less appealing? Looks that way. The question is why? We have some theories. We could show you a million examples to illustrate this, but here's one from just yesterday that came immediately to mind. Watch as this MSNBC panel, which is as close to a Democratic Party focus group as you'll ever find, gushes over that porn lawyer, the one whose eyes are too close together. You know, the one who's always on television making threats. Watch this.
Michael Avenatti is a beast.
Okay, that's true.
And
he's a beast.
He's a beast, and he keeps popping Donald Trump and all of his folks in the mouth. John Meacham says he may be the savior of the republic. It's really interesting.
He killed the news of the Iran deal practically in one big stroke. He really is a master of the media cycle. I owe Michael Avenatti an apology. For the last couple of weeks, I've been saying, enough already, Michael. I've seen you everywhere. What do you have left to say? I was wrong, brother. You have a lot to say. The Democrats could learn something from you. You are messing with Trump a lot more than they are.
So here's a political rule of thumb. If the creepy porn lawyer is, quote, the savior of the republic in your view, you're probably not trying very hard to appeal to middle America, and Democrats are not. In fact, in the last year and a half, the Democratic Party has doubled down on every behavior that got Trump elected in the first place. They routinely vilify tens of millions of Americans based on how they look. They prefer legal immigrants to U.S. citizens. At this point, they don't even hide that preference. They're open about it. In schools, in sports, in the military, they denounce the idea of biological differences between men and women. That's something that every culture from ancient Egypt till about 20 minutes ago understood perfectly well because it's demonstrable. They don't recognize it anymore. Then 2 nights ago, the New York Times criticized the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, in his trip to North Korea. They ran the headline, "At a key moment, Trump's top diplomat is again thousands of miles away," like it was a sin. But the purpose of his visit, you'll recall, was to secure the release of 3 American prisoners. But the Times was not impressed by that. Pompeo works for Trump, so the whole thing must be bad. Whatever else he's done, Trump has driven the Democratic Party off the deep end. They not only hate him, but the country that elected him, and it's starting to show in the polls. Christy Setzer is president of New Heights Communications. She's been in and around the Democratic Party for a long time, and she joins us tonight. So, I mean, you heard Tom Bevan say, you know, they're mad that their message isn't getting out. But the truth is their message is Trump is bad. And that's not really a message, right? That's more an animal reaction.
Whatever their message is, it's actually working. If you look at the congressional and state level elections that have happened since November 2016, Democrats have flipped 40-plus seats at the state legislative level, and often in districts where Trump actually won by 20 or 30 points. So we can quibble about what the message is, but we can't really quibble right now about whether or not it's working, because it clearly seems to be.
Well, I mean, of course, to some extent, I mean, Trump is still, like, loathed by half the population. It's his first midterm, so historically, of course they're going to pick up seats. So the question is, where's the wave? And if you listen to what the message really is, one of the messages is, for example, that there are no differences between the sexes, that biological reality is, like, fake.
Nobody's saying that. I mean, no,
and we need to reorganize society along those lines. That's way more radical than anything Trump has ever said.
I would suggest that you point me to the candidate that is saying that and making that their real message. No, look, Democrats are being reasonable in the election.
Would it be possible for a Democrat running for office in a Democratic primary to say there are 2 biological sexes, male and female, and that's it? That's what our biology tells. If you said that,
I would suggest they talk about the economy.
No, what do you mean? They're trying to reorganize. Are you joking? They're the ones pushing all these changes on the rest of us, including the bathroom thing and all of this. You couldn't say that in the Democratic Party. No, I'm serious.
It's Republicans who are doing the bathroom thing. Again, North Carolina, that was a entirely Republican
No one even
thing.
imagined there were more than 2 sexes until about 20 minutes ago when it was Democrats. So, but I'm just saying, that's a big change. Maybe biology isn't real, but that's not a mainstream position, and they spent a lot of time talking about it. Does that help?
I would say that if you wanted to make the argument to me that Democrats should or should not be talking about impeachment, they should or should not be spending a lot of time on Stormy Daniels and Michael Avenatti, we can have that conversation, and I would be happy to. But there is no mainstream Democratic candidate who is talking about, as you said, you know, the differences in biology.
You could say, as a Democrat, I'm serious, because I think it's reordering society is always a big deal. And pretending biology is fake is too. So you could have a Democratic candidate who would say there are 2 biological sexes, that's it. He could get away with that?
I don't think that they have been, is what I'm saying. And I think, again, if you look back to the ways that Democrats have been performing up to this point, whatever it is that they're doing is working. There is far more energy, there is more small dollar donations, and
Yes.
that leads into more volunteers, and it leads to a better slate of candidates in the Democratic
A lot of that is true. I think you're absolutely right. There's probably more energy, more money, and all that. I'm waiting for the wave. We'll see. I hope you'll come back election night.
Thank you.
Christy Setzer, thank you. Democrats are upset about speeches like that and about the Trump presidency itself, of course, but for more than a year they've consoled themselves by looking ahead to the midterms, the 2018 congressional elections, and they thought to themselves, we're going to win big, we're going to take back power, and they may. But recent polls show that Democrats' once massive lead is shrinking, and now to almost nothing. A new poll over at CNN shows that Democrats have only a 3-point advantage on a generic congressional ballot. Is this real? What does it mean? What is going on here? Tom Bevan, co-founder of Real Clear Politics, follows this stuff carefully for a living, and he joins us tonight. Now, what is this about, Tom, and is it real?
Oh, I definitely think it's real, Tucker. You go back and look in mid-December, the Democratic lead in the generic ballot, and that's the question. If the election were held today, would you vote for the Republican or Democrat? Democrats had a 13-point lead. As of today, it's down to 6 in our Real Clear Politics average. And as you mentioned, the CNN poll went from 16-point lead for Democrats 2 months ago down to 3. We've got another poll showing it down to 1 point. So this is real. And it is, just as a point of reference, in 2006, when Democrats won 30 seats, they finished with a 7.9% lead in the generic ballot. And so they're at 6 now, and they need about 24 seats. So I think they're in that range where it's making them very, very nervous.
So Republicans in Congress have been assuming for months, I've talked to them, that they're going to lose big and that Nancy Pelosi or whomever is going to be the speaker. Now they think they've got a shot, but they're concerned about intensity. Voter intensity on the left is really, really strong. How meaningful is that intensity?
Oh, it's meaningful, particularly in a midterm election where it's all about turning out the base. And Democrats have had advantage in that. But again, back to that CNN poll, that was another finding that I think was disturbing for Democrats. They showed that Republican intensity is up now and was matching the level at Democrats. And if that's the case, it's not at all a sure bet that Democrats would take back the House in November.
This is all a little confusing, and Trump's personal approval numbers are confusing given that the Stormy Daniels story, which is the single most important story ever covered by the American news media, I think we both agree on that, has dominated the coverage for the past 3 or 4 weeks, month, 2 months, I don't know how long it's been. That hasn't had an effect.
No, in fact, it's just the opposite, Tucker. Back in mid-December was Trump's low point in the Real Clear Politics job approval rating. His average was 37. He's now at 44.3, so he's gained, or 43.4. He's gained 6.5 points over the course of that period. And as you mentioned, the entire time it's been in the Stormy Daniels onslaught. It has not only has it hurt his numbers have been ticking upward the entire time. And again, that's something that, and you see Democrats now, you talk to them, they're now somewhat annoyed by this because you talk to Nancy Pelosi and others. They say, look, this is distracting from our message. They want to try and get back to reaching voters. And voters have actually tuned that out now and are paying attention to the other stuff, which Trump has had a pretty good few weeks.
Amazing. Their message. We don't have time for you to tell me what that is. But I appreciate it, Tom. Thank you.
You bet.
What they don't understand is like, you know, the media are bone-crushingly literal about this. He's like a great actor or a great singer. He's playing the subtext, not just merely the dialogue on the surface. And you'd think these moronic celebrity critics of his would figure that out. Why is Alec Baldwin's impersonation of Trump such a big nothing? It's because Trump is actually playing Trump better than this brilliant actor plays him. He's playing the subtext. And that's, by the way, that's what, not to go all actor studio on you, Tucker, that's what Alec Baldwin... That's what Alec Baldwin does when he does his hilarious Tony Bennett impression. He's playing the subtext. But he can't get beyond the politics, and he can't get beyond the surface lingo when he does Trump. Trump is a genius like this, and that's what all these crowds get. Even when the words appear to be saying something else, they get what he's really saying. This is something, you know, if there was political staff college, they'd be teaching these things in 20 or 50 years.
I think maybe what he's saying most of all is, I care about you. I'm interested in what you have to say, and that people want to hear that more than anything.
Absolutely. And what's interesting to me is when you leave these rallies, it's not just that people are laughing and people are mouthing along with the slogans, but you also see people with tears welling up in their eyes, because it is so unlike the synthetic, consultant-driven, poll-tested, phony baloney of conventional presidential campaigning.
Interesting. Mark Stein, always great to see you. Thank you.